Have you made a decision at some point in your life that who you are just isn't enough? Have you decided the kind of information out there in the world, that is the right information? Is there good information, bad information? Are some people right, wrong, good, bad? How do you decide? Right? How do you decide who's good, who's bad, what's right and what's wrong? All right. Do you have some sort of internal reference point that directs you in all things true, or do you just kind of make it up as you go? These are some interesting ideas to consider because you have made a decision about yourself, right? That's why I ask this question. The reason, you're here is to, figure out how to grow in confidence and self-esteem. Well, you only are here to grow in confidence and self-esteem because you've made a decision at some point in your life that who you are is off a deficit in some way. I'm spelling it out. All right, you've decided that you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. You're perhaps a victim, you maybe are a reject, you are whatever, all right? But you're certainly not enough, otherwise you wouldn't have a confidence and self-esteem issue, all right? So the question is, how crystallized are you in your thinking? Do you know what I mean by crystallized? Fixed, rigid. Is there room for me to influence you just a little bit? Or are you rigidly agreeing with some things that you like, that fit your personal narrative, and disagreeing with those things that just don't fit your personal narrative? All right, listen, you have the final say. So crystallized thinking is representative of our ability to use knowledge that's been acquired via education, socialization, and experience. All right, such as preferences, worldviews, retained knowledge, riding a bike, learning to speak, fixed identity definition. So we go to school, for example, we pick up skills. You learn to ride a bike. You don't forget how to learn to ride a bike because you've learned to ride a bike. All right, you can read a book or watch a movie and you won't forget that. You'll formulate an opinion or a worldview. There's basic things like mathematical equations, 2 + 2 = 4. You'll never forget that, all right? It's just kind of crystallized thinking. There's some things in life that we can be crystallized about, we can be fixed about. It's fine. For example, a set of standards for our life, a set of, like a code of conduct. For me personally, I do not engage with people who communicate with me in a dishonouring way. It's a standard that I have. If someone speaks down to me or an undermining tone, I'll just say, terribly sorry, I'm not going to carry on in this conversation. If you decide that you want to communicate with me in a more honouring way, I'll be happy to pick this back up at some point in the future. Now that might seem quite assertive. Would you have the boldness to say something like that to someone? I've been doing this for quite some time, all right? The reason why some people won't communicate in this way is because they're crystallized. They see that the way in which they do things is the only way in which things can be done. All right, which certainly is a very restrictive and a very limiting way that we can approach life. All right, so whilst it's good to be consistent in how we ride our bike, and whilst it's good to be consistent in how we drive our car, or perhaps the dietary food patterns, the patterns of our eating, that's fine. That's kind of like irrelevant. That's just kind of stuff we can get on with. But when it comes to our intelligence, when it comes to who we are, our personality, our identity, if we become crystallized in those things, this becomes our primary block to all growth and increase and advancement as human beings, right? You can't afford to do this. I know what common pop culture says, I am what I feel. I feel happy, therefore I'm a happy person. I feel sad, therefore I'm a sad person. And I also am fully aware of the mess that the psychiatry associations around the world have made by inventing literally hundreds and hundreds of different mental disorders that are just terms used to categorize various aspects of our human experience. Right? Have you made your mind up about who you are? Or is there some wiggle room for change? Would it be okay to change? Fluid intelligence is where we're able to use logical reasoning to reinterpret pre-existing data or in response to new, better data, right? So you have some data within you, right? You have some beliefs, you have some worldviews, some opinions, things like that. So they are either going to be fixed, i.e. you have decided that they are universal truths, no wiggle room for any change in this, or I'm going to offer you some ideas that might make some of your pre-existing notions and concepts and beliefs a little bit obsolete. So the world of science would refer to this as paradigm shift, right? Where the process of personal growth, or if you understand scientific inquiry, I don't know if you do, I'm not here to be a scientist or impress you with kind of gobbledygook. I'm here just to help you understand yourself, right? Scientific inquiry looks like this. A theory is born, so a man or a woman comes up with a theory, which is essentially just an idea. It's not a universal fact. Then lots of other scientists say, is this true? Then what all the scientists do is they try to disprove the theory. Right? That's all science is. You know, men and women committed to the process of trying to disprove beliefs or theories. Then what happens is someone kind of breaks through and says, I have now discovered that something else is in fact true, which makes this theory obsolete. So this is how science grows. But it's not how most human beings grow. Because the way that most human beings grow is they come up with an idea and say, right, well, I've thought that thought, I've come up with this opinion, therefore it must be true and I ain't budging on this. All right? This person's a bad person, that person's a good person. This socio-economic group of people are good, or this socio-economic group of people are bad because they're different from me in these ways. And people become very inflexible. If you heard the difference between right-wing thinking, left-wing thinking, you will see the intolerance that people tend to have towards difference. But sometimes people will judge themselves in a completely undermining way because of how it is that they are different in comparison to others. And again, this is kind of where people open the door for low confidence and low self-esteem or insecurity in their lives. All right, so fluid intelligence. The question is, how ready are you to change your mind about how it is that you define yourself? Or are you fixed? Have you made your mind up? Is there no convincing you? Because how fluid you become in your thinking will determine how flexible you become in your emotional experience of life. I'm being straight. All right? Fluid intelligence involves us seeking out new information, better information, working hard on ourselves, and ultimately changing our mind about things. This is how we grow and develop as human beings. It's how we learn, by changing our mind about things. It's why it is that science has evolved over the years, because various spheres of study and various psychological schools have changed their mind about pre-existing ideas. The only issue is that human beings have this tendency to not do this about themselves. But every other aspect of the world is constantly growing and evolving and improving and changing. But the human condition, for many people, remains the same for anything up to an entire lifetime. Don't fall into this trap. You don't have to. All right? Developing understanding. Some people go through life reading book after book after book, taking course after course after course. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great to grow in knowledge. I like to grow in knowledge. Of course, it keeps us fresh and relevant, doesn't it? But there's one thing better than knowledge, and this is understanding. Knowledge is kind of that which we have between our ears, right? It might be great if we can regurgitate Pythagoras' theorem. Well, I couldn't do that. I can't even remember what it was. It was obviously didn't impact me that much. Do I remember some of Sigmund Freud's main psychological ideas? No, I can't actually. I can't remember the terminologies. Can I remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning? Nope. Can I remember what colour of socks I put on today? Nope, I wasn't paying attention to that either. All right, they might very well be odd socks. However, I do understand some things about life. I do understand some things about myself. I do understand that the day that I close my mind to learning more about myself and more about our human experience is the day that I become closed to experiencing more of life. All right, the day we stop growing in understanding is the day that we start stagnating, which again is that door that opens up and invites in low confidence and low self-esteem. So growing in self-awareness, all right, is absolutely pivotal, because I guarantee that you don't know what it is that you don't know about yourself. And I also guarantee that you don't know what it is that you don't know about life. So if you don't know what you don't know about yourself and about life, then it's going to be pretty useful to develop this humility and a little bit of fluidity in our thinking. Which then comes about and leads into us improving our people skills. As we become more acquainted with ourselves, as we become more knowledgeable of ourselves, as we become wiser within ourselves, as we develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and who we are, we naturally become more relatable to other people. And guess what happens? Well, guess what happens then? That's right, people want to be around us, we grow in confidence, we grow in self-esteem and all these sorts of things. There ain't no getting away from this. Alright, as I say, I'm not here to impress you with fancy words or knowledge. I'm not here to tell you to love yourself or become infatuated with yourself. Right, there's a lot of kind of people with whitened teeth who kind of promote all that nonsense. I'm here to tell you straight, alright, to give you a little bit of hope that your life can increase, your life will improve as you do. All right, we're good with this? So, a couple of questions now to help you expand your fluidity, all right? So, if you were to read a book on neuroscience, right, which I'm not encouraging you to do. I tried reading about neuroscience and struggled to get past the first chapter. Wasn't a particularly engaging read. All right, in neuroscience, they talk about neural pathways, right? All neural pathways are, you know, when we have an aha moment or we have a realization or we put two and two together and, we see. That's all we're talking about with neural pathways, when we're making connections between things. All right, when we have a realization about ourselves. Perhaps you've had one already. So here's a couple of questions to test how neurologically flexible you are. The question is, how much room is there for new ideas or degrees of truth inside your existing frame of reference? Your frame of reference is just how you see things. It's your perception, it's your outlook on life. All right, some people go through life so rigid, so inflexible, assuming that there is no degree of truth outside of that which they have experienced for themselves. And as you're probably able to identify, that's a bit of a silly perspective to have in life. So, a couple of questions just to warm up your mind, if that's all right. So you have lots of thoughts, yeah? Now, I'm not reading your mind here by saying I think you have lots of thoughts, because I have lots of thoughts, we all have lots of thoughts, it's part of being human. So you have lots of thoughts, and there's a pretty good chance sometimes you'll have thoughts that you focus on, but where do your thoughts come from? Do you create them? Do you choose to think certain thoughts? Where do your thoughts come from? Do we create our own thoughts, or do they come from somewhere else? This is actually one of these questions that science and psychology and philosophy has been asking for thousands of years. All right, so any idea or proposal that I could make would be nothing more than subjective. But listen, figure this one out for yourself. Maybe you have the universal truth in this area. Where do thoughts come from? Because the philosophers of old, the psychologists, no one knows. Everyone's still trying to figure this out. Right. So, here's a really interesting one. Some people say, I've lost my confidence. I need a confidence boost. I've lost my confidence. All right, so just to play on words here, if you will humour me, all right, where does confidence go exactly when we lose it? Does it like take a nosedive out of the window? Does it kind of like fall down the toilet? Where does it go? Does it kind of fall down the sink? So if you've ever lost your confidence, where did you lose it? Is losing your confidence kind of like losing your car keys? Because I lose my car keys all the time. Where did I put my car keys? Karen's my wife, by the way. Karen, where did I put my car keys? That'd be kind of like the same thing. Karen, I've lost my confidence. Where did I put my confidence? Have you really lost your confidence? All right. So where does it go when we lose it? I want you to think about this rationally. All right. Just commonsensically. Where does it go when you lose it? All right. Where does confidence come from when we get it? Bit of a contrastive analysis here, isn't it? So when we grow in confidence, where does it come from? Where does it go when we lose it? Where does it come from when we get it? Is it from within us? From outside of us? Am I giving you some confidence? Does the guru give you some confidence? Does the magical mystical man or woman with all the, healing energies, do they give you confidence? Is there a confidence shop you can go to buy some? Is there a confidence pawn shop where you can go and pawn yours off? These might seem like really silly questions, all right, but the questions you kind of need to get some answers for, which you're only going to get from looking within. Okay, how would you define your identity without limitations? Seriously, what terms do you use to box yourself in on an identity level? Right, a label I used to use was a soldier. So how would you define your identity without limitations? All right, I'm a man. Well, that's a little bit limited. I'm a woman. Oh, that's a little bit limited. I'm a soldier. That's a little bit limited. I'm anxious. Well, that's also a little bit limited. If we were to remove all limitations, labels are for tin cans, not for human beings. So how many labels have you placed upon yourself over the years that you conform to rigidly? And why do you need labels? Why do you need labels? This is what we need to understand. So I'm not here to give you any answers right now. I'm here to get you thinking for yourself, to warm up your mind. In what aspects of life do you have total peace of mind? I guarantee there is at least one area of your life that you have total peace of mind. There's one area of your life, or there's going to be one person that you're just yourself around. One person you're completely confident with and in, which means that you never lost your confidence. It just means you haven't learned this transferable skill. You haven't defined it. You heard the term transferable skills? It's kind of like in one role, you might kind of be unknowingly managing people, and then you go into a new job or a new role and, well, these are my transferable skills. I can apply this skill over here to this skill over here. Same goes with confidence, right? If you're really confident when you're working hard behind a computer, or you're kind of cycling, or you're doing something sporty or whatever, or in a social environment, well, if you've got confidence in one area, guess what? You can transfer that over onto other areas, which meant it never left you, all right? It never took that nosedive out the window. My goodness. What aspects of life do you have total peace of mind in, right? Document them. In what ways does your life serve a greater purpose than just you? Oh, there's a tough one, all right? In what ways does your life serve a greater purpose than just you? Or does it not? Because if your life doesn't serve a greater purpose than just you, well, again, I guess some people are not going to find so much value in you. So, what don't you know that you really need to know today? Define it. Think about it. Use your mind. Your mind is sound. There's nothing wrong with your mind. It doesn't matter what anyone else has said. I'm telling you, there is nothing wrong with your mind. All right, so have a look and see, what is it that you don't know about yourself that you really need to know today? Document it. What limitations do you have in your life that aren't 100% self-imposed? What actual limitations? Now, okay, granted, you might be living in a geographical location in the world where you come under authoritarian rule, where if you kind of break a curfew, you get shot by police or something like that. But if that's not you, all right, what limitations do you actually have in your life that are not 100% self-imposed? I'm asking you questions here to invite you to wake up to yourself and do a bit of a thorough checkup from the neck up. All right, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Is this okay? How can you peacefully coexist with uncertainty and doubt? Because guess what? It's always going to be there. You are never going to be free from uncertainty or doubt. I'm not, right? My life is full of uncertainty and doubt. Last year, my uncertainty and doubt came from, will I still be alive in 7 days' time? 2 years ago, oh my goodness, will I still be alive in a month's time? All right, and here I am still standing. All right, so uncertainty and doubt is going nowhere. All right, so you might as well just make peace with it. You might as well just become a friend of it. All right, the day you can get over this is the day you can start really living an exciting life. And do you really just want more confidence? Do you really just want more self-esteem? Or how about living a really exciting life? How about living a really exciting life? Because that's possible, but only when you start getting over yourself and start living for a purpose that's greater than yourself. Oh, the cat's out the bag. Right, last question for now. Upon what basis do you make important life decisions? Right, don't ask me, don't send me an email. I'm not going to tell you, I can't. I am not the expert of your life, because you are. You are the expert of your life. You can go and speak to a doctor, or a mental health guru, or a witch or a wizard, or a healer, or a counsellor, or whatever. All right, and guess what? None of these people are experts of you. They might have read some textbooks, they might have studied in university, they might have some letters after their names, they might even call themselves professionals, all right? But no one is an expert of you, not even me. The only person who's an expert of you is you. So, upon what basis do you make really important life decisions? Because here's the thing, if you've decided that you are insufficient or insuffice or not enough in some way, well, that's a pretty important life decision. So upon what basis did you make this?